Lucy Van Doren stood on the polished marble floor of the Musée du Chocolat Belge, inhaling the hushed perfume of cacao that drifted through the grand atrium like incense. The museum, housed in a restored Bruges Guildhall, was equal parts shrine and laboratory. Glass cases of gilded moulds, century-old copper kettles, spinning mélangeurs, and, Lucy's favourite, a circular demonstration theatre where visitors could watch master chocolatiers coax molten couverture into glossy ribbons. On this drizzly November morning, the place felt especially cosy, with brass sconces casting pools of honeyed light on cherry wood panels. Lucy, a young apprentice with quick hands and quicker curiosity, had arrived early to polish the antique scales in advance of tonight's fundraising gala. Halfway through buffing the brass, she noticed a folded slip of paper tucked beneath the base. She unfolded it, expecting a mislaid recipe card. Instead, she saw a short list. 31-2-14 dig 32.105 dig 34.522 dig 27.983d. Below each number, someone had added a neat deg-C, the degree symbol standing like a miniature halo. Tempering temperatures, Lucy thought automatically. For the museum's signature 70% dark couverture, the curves were always 45 degrees C for melting, 27 degrees C for cooling, then 31 degrees C for working. But the figures on the note were slightly off, close enough to intrigue, wrong enough to matter. She slipped the slip into her apron when a voice drifted across the hall. "Early bird again, mademoiselle?" It was Hugo Desmarais, the museum curator, whose walrus moustache quivered whenever he smiled. "We'll have the museum sparkling long before the donors arrive." Lucy grinned back, but her mind was still on the mysterious numbers. She decided to tuck the puzzle away until the lunch break, when she could consult the tempering charts in the reference library upstairs. Yet the numbers refused to stay quiet. They came to her as she weighed nibs, as she guided tourists through the history of Gianduja, as she helped a schoolchild coax a chocolate fountain into behaving. They were still circling her thoughts at noon, when the city's carillon bells tolled over the canal. Lucy headed for the library, but halted at the door. Two Antwerp detectives in rain-dark trench coats were speaking with the curator in low voices. "Another robbery?" Hugo asked them, voice tight. "Afraid so," replied the older detective, Inspector Bram de Wilde. "A pair of blue diamonds snatched from a vault near the riverfront. No alarms triggered. Same precision as the last two hits." Lucy felt a prickle of excitement. The Antwerp diamond robberies had dominated headlines for weeks. 3 daring thefts, no violence, clean getaways. She lingered behind a glass case of Proline sculptures, eavesdropping. "We've traced the thief's route south," de Wilde continued. "The pattern suggests Bruges is next. You've got a gala tonight, priceless jewel box collection of cacao antiquities on loan, and wealthy patrons wearing heirlooms. Perfect target." Hugo puffed out his moustache. "We'll double security." Lucy slipped away before she was spotted. Security, she reflected, would help, but patterns solved crimes. She glanced at the folded note again. What if the strange temperatures were not chocolatier notations at all? Her afternoon shift kept her busy, yet during lulls she researched quietly on a tablet by the tasting bar. She entered the first pair of numbers, 31-214, 32-905, into a map application, switching the DGC to N and E on a hunch. The pin dropped not in a kitchen, but on a narrow Antwerp side street, the site of the very first diamond robbery. Heart fluttering, she typed in 3005-22, 27.993. The map swung across the Scheldt River to a luxury jeweller's showroom, the second heist. Lucy's fingertips tingled. These were coordinates disguised as chocolate temperatures. Someone inside the museum was hiding clues in culinary code. That evening, the gala unfurled under sparkling chandeliers. Tables draped in burgundy linen displayed trays of rose-petal ganache, jasmine tea truffles, and caramel domes flecked with gold leaf. Lucy circulated with a silver platter, offering clients a new hazelnut crunch. She kept a discreet eye on the crowd: city officials, cocoa traders, aristocratic collectors, and the two Antwerp detectives who stood near the tempering theatre, studying the displays. Midway through the event, Hugo mounted the dais to introduce a special demonstration. Master chocolatier Gérard Mears would temper a single-origin Tanzanian chocolate live, explaining each temperature stage. Lucy watched Gérard pour molten dark velvet onto the marble, swirling it with a palette knife. Cameras whirred, guests applauded. "First, we bring the chocolate down to exactly 27 degrees C, Gérard announced, then back up to 31 degrees C. Lucy's pulse skipped. The numbers from the note. She glanced at the demonstration screen where a digital thermometer flashed 27.0 degrees C. Someone in the audience snapped a photograph from an odd angle, pointing not at the chocolatier, but at the reading. The photographer was a petite woman in a powder blue suit, Dr. Yvette Lamoureux, a visiting confectionery historian from Paris. Earlier, Yvette had charmed investors with anecdotes about Aztec cacao rituals. Now she tucked her phone away quickly and melted into the throng. Lucy's gaze trailed her until a bell tinkled, signaling the start of the charity auction in the mezzanine. Staff shepherded guests upstairs, but Lucy lingered by the demonstration kitchen. A thought nagged: 27-degree eyes and 31-degree sets were two of the coordinates on the note. If Yvette was collecting thermometer readings, perhaps she sought confirmation of the hidden code. She decided to share her findings with Inspector de Wilde at once. Yet as she threaded through the crowd, she collided with Hugo, who pressed a tray of ruby-dusted bonbons into her hands. "We're short a server upstairs," he whispered. "Can you manage?" Lucy forced a smile and ascended to the mezzanine. Below, antique machinery glimmered in amber light. The auctioneer began rattling off numbers for a Rococo chocolate pot, bids flying. Lucy offered bonbons, all the while scanning for Yvette. The historian stood near a glass balustrade, gazing down at the main floor. Not at the artifacts, but at an unguarded exit door behind the Cocoa Press exhibit. Lucy excused herself, hurried downstairs, and intercepted Inspector de Wilde near the cloakroom. She opened her mouth, but voices boomed from the auction speakers. Lot 12, the Emerald Scepter Praline assortment, sold for €8,000. Applause drowned Lucy's words. She tugged de Wilde's sleeve and whispered rapidly about the temperature coordinate code. The inspector's brows knitted, half skeptical, half intrigued. "Show me," he said. Lucy led him to the demonstration theatre, produced the slip of paper, and pulled up the map pins on her phone. De Wilde whistled under his breath. "Clever, but why hide them here?" "Perhaps the thief is using each public demonstration to verify coordinates," Lucy suggested. "It's safer to record temperatures than latitude and longitude." De Wilde's partner, Detective Lotte Janssens, joined them. While she and de Wilde examined the note, a commotion erupted upstairs, shouts followed by the heavy clang of a security shutter. Guests flocked to the stairwell, clutching pearl necklaces and champagne flutes. "Stay here," de Wilde ordered Lucy, then sprinted upward with Lotte. Lucy, curiosity overruling caution, slipped behind a row of burlap cocoa bean sacks to watch. Through the spokes of the staircase, she saw pandemonium. The lights above the auction platform had cut out. Emergency strobes flashed. When they came back on, a glass case was shattered, and a velvet tray lay empty. The museum's sugar diamond, a flawless fist-sized crystal sugar sculpture studded with edible silver leaf, had vanished. Though not a real gemstone, its insurance value was staggering. Within minutes, security sealed the exits. Detectives questioned guests, staff, even servers. Lucy was recounting her whereabouts when she spotted Dr. Yvette Lamoureux stepping from the ladies' powder room, adjusting her hair. A harried guard asked for her identification. She provided it calmly, but Lucy noticed something. The historian's powder blue suit now bulged oddly at one pocket. Inspector de Wilde returned, face grim. "We've reviewed the cameras. Whoever smashed the case was wearing a museum lab coat and a full confectioner's mask. Masks are standard in the tempering kitchen, so that tells us nothing." "But the thief didn't leave," Lucy reasoned. "Exits are sealed. The sugar diamond is still inside the museum." De Wilde nodded. "We'll search every purse and pocket." As staff ushered patrons to seating areas for inspection, Yvette drifted toward the demonstration theatre. Lucy tailed her discreetly, heart hammering. At the tempering marble, Gerard was cleaning chocolate streaks. Yvette watched him, then approached the digital thermometer, tilting her head as though studying a relic. Lucy saw her fingers glide toward a metal clasp on the side panel. In one practiced motion, she slid out the thermometer's memory stick, a tiny device storing all logged temperatures, then slipped it into her pocket. Lucy stepped forward. "Dr. Lamoureux? Fascinating, isn't it, how precise our equipment is?" Yvette, startled, offered a tight smile. "Oui, precision is everything." "May I see your phone?" Lucy asked sweetly. Security's requesting photos from guests to help reconstruct events. Yvette's eyes narrowed. "I left it upstairs." "I saw you place it in your handbag after you photographed 27 de C," Lucy replied, tone gentle but firm. Before Yvette could answer, Lotte Janssens approached. "Problem here?" Lucy explained in hushed tones about the thermometer data. Lotte invited Yvette for a private chat. The historian protested in fluent French, sharpening her vowels like tiny knives, yet Lotte's polite insistence prevailed. They moved to a side office. Minutes passed. Lucy hovered nervously by a chocolate sculpture of Felix the cat sailing a cocoa bean boat. Finally, Lotte emerged, a hint of triumph in her eyes. "We searched her bag. No sugar diamond, but the phone is full of thermometer photos. And look at this." She handed Lucy a folded parchment, seized from Yvette's clutch. It listed more figures. 50.66 Lucy swallowed. 50.6 was Bruges latitude, so 366 the longitude. Tonight's location. The final heist pinned. "Enough for a warrant?" Lucy asked. "Maybe not yet," Lotte said, "but plenty for suspicion. Keep your eyes open while we interview others." The gala resumed in limping fashion. String musicians tried to recapture elegance, though guests' chatter sounded brittle. Lucy helped restock hot chocolate urns, but her mind raced. If Yvette was part of the ring, where was the sugar diamond? And why risk stealing a sugar sculpture instead of real jewels? At 11 p.m, security finally announced guests were free to leave, one at a time, after a metal detector sweep. Yvette exited under close watch, feeling offended rather than defeated. Lucy, exhausted, retrieved her coat from the staff lounge. As she shrugged it on, a faint clink came from a high shelf. She reached up and pulled down an unlabeled tin, heavier than cocoa powder. Removing the lid revealed a silky mound of tempered dark chocolate, still warm, odd at this hour. She tapped the surface with a spoon. Something solid knocked inside. Lucy dug carefully, and her spoon struck crystal. She unearthed the sugar diamond, encased like a fruit in pâte de fruit, its facets glinting through the chocolate shell. The thief had hidden the loot in plain sight, disguised as couverture cooling for enrobing. Clever, but who had access to the staff lounge? Most of the evening's servers had been temporary hires. Lucy hurried to the security office. De Wild and Lotte stared at the confection with astonishment. Someone planned to retrieve it later, after the fuss died down, Lotte said. But Yvette's passport shows she's departing for Paris on the 6 a.m. train. An accomplice? De Wild mused. Maybe she signals, another retrieves. Lucy snapped her fingers. The tempering room. Yvette took the data stick. If the robberies synchronize with chocolate temperatures, that flash drive might contain the next coordinates delivered to her accomplice. De Wild wasted no time. He ordered a sweep of the museum's camera feeds, focusing on backstage service corridors. Within an hour, they identified a figure in a white lab coat entering the staff lounge minutes before the power outage, carrying the crystal, then sealing it in chocolate. The person removed the coat, revealing not a server, but Hugo Desmarais. Lucy gasped. Her kindly curator? But the more she thought, the more pieces fit. Hugo alone knew every corner of the museum, managed the schedule, and ordered supplies, including the specialty couverture used to hide the diamond. He'd also hired Yvette as a guest historian. At 1 a.m., Hugo was discovered in the conservation lab, checking humidity levels. Confronted with the footage, his shoulders sagged. He did not deny it. Yet instead of anger, he looked desperately tired. "I never wanted real diamonds," he said softly. "Those robberies were Yvette's scheme. She needed insider knowledge of security systems. In return, she promised enough money to keep this museum afloat another decade. Attendance is down, subsidies shrinking. I thought if I just helped once, but it grew." His explanation poured forth. Yvette had used chocolate demonstrations across Belgium to encode coordinates, each temperature a numeric breadcrumb for accomplices. Hugo relayed them via innocuous email updates. "Tonight we cooled at 28 degrees." Sound perfect gloss. Meanwhile, Yvette's team decoded the DGC as degrees latitude or longitude. When the sugar diamond exhibit arrived on loan, Yvette insisted it was the perfect finale. A publicity heist, symbolic, minimal legal risk since it was sugar, not carbon. Hugo had secretly balked. He hid the crystal so police would recover it, hoping to sabotage her without implicating himself. But Yvette's flight at dawn would take the data stick and the next targets out of reach. Inspector de Wild listened, expression unreadable. He arrested Hugo for conspiracy and theft. Then he turned to Lucy. "We still need the data stick she pocketed." A plan blossomed quickly. Lucy volunteered to find Yvette before her train. With museum permission, she borrowed a company van and drove through misty canals to Bruges station at 5 a.m., Lotte riding shotgun. They located Yvette on platform 3, sipping espresso beneath a flickering lamp. The historian stiffened at their approach. "We found the sugar diamond," Lucy said by way of greeting. Yvette's porcelain composure fractured for a heartbeat. Lotte produced Hugo's signed confession, detailing Yvette's role. "Hand over the drive," the detective said. Yvette's gaze darted to the sleek Thalys train. No room to run. Plainclothes officers blocked either end of the platform. With a resigned sigh, she slipped the data stick from her clutch. "You were gifted with a brilliant mind," Lucy said quietly. Imagine encoding coordinates through coffee roast profiles or lace patterns. Belgium would have celebrated you. Instead, Yvette gave a brittle laugh. History rarely rewards its scholars. Diamonds do. Officers escorted her away. Later that morning, the museum reopened. Rain pattered against stained glass windows, but inside, visitors clustered happily around the demonstration theatre. Gerard tempered chocolate, and children squealed when the thermometer beeped at exactly 27 degrees. Lucy stood nearby, heart lighter. Inspector de Wilde approached with 2 cups of thick, hot cocoa. Hugo will cooperate, he reported. With his testimony, we'll recover most of the diamonds. Lucy accepted the cocoa gratefully. What will happen to the museum? The board intends to keep it running, and they're appointing an interim curator. He eyed her meaningfully. Lucy's cheeks warmed, though she suspected the steam rising from her cup masked some of it. I'm only an apprentice, she chuckled. For now, de Wilde said. He lifted his cup. To temperatures that stay temperatures. Lucy clinked her mug against his. The chocolate was perfectly tempered, glossy and strong, ready to crack cleanly but melt gently, just like the city she loved. And somewhere beyond the canals, church bells tolled, scattering the last wisps of night. Inside the venerable halls of cacao, warmth bloomed anew, richer than jewels, sweeter than secrets.